This is the test review for Math 96 on Chapter 2. This is problem number 1. You want to make sure that, especially when you take your test, that you show enough work. I know you're going to be using the calculator an awful lot, but you need to show me enough work so that I can see what's going on. So it says consider the data that's over here in the table and the graph over here, and you can see that that's part of a parabola. That's the shape. So it's a quadratic. Consider the data and the graph for the average home value in Oregon over the past decade. And let's take a look at the table. And as usual, we've got time, well, not as usual, but lots of times we have time here in this first column. I went ahead and labeled that my x axis, and you can see it anyway on the plot. So this is the year after 2000. So this is 2005, this is 2007, 2008, and so on. And this is the average home value. Now, you would think that in here it would tell you, I mean, you know it's not $188. It's probably $188,000. And so I looked over here in the plot, and sure enough, you can see it says times 1,000. So this is the average home value. And so let's take a look at A. It says find the slope between 2005 and 2008. So what I went ahead and did is I just put a 5 in there and an 8 in there because that's what we've got over here in this column. And in order to find the slope, all I have to do is find the difference between the y's and divide it by the difference between the x's. So 5 and 8, I've got 188 and 150, and that's what I have on top. And on the bottom, I have 5 minus 8. So the slope here, I end up with a negative 12.66, and it just keeps going. So I rounded it off a couple places. So the slope is a negative 12.67. And then they're asking for its meaning in a complete sentence. So I said, and this, we've got to work really hard at getting this down. Make use of the information that they're talking about. The average home value decreased, because it was a negative, $12,670 per year, meaning for every year. And then on B, it says find the slope between these 2 years, which is years 13 and 14. And I did the same kind of thing. Here's the difference in the x's. Here's the difference in the y's. You have to be careful that you make sure you match them up. So the 13, it matches up with the 139, and the 14 with the 145. So I ended up getting a slope of 6, and the meaning is, again, the average home value increased, because this is positive, $6,000 per year. On C, it says use regression to find a quadratic equation to model the data. Round the numbers in your equation to 2 decimal places. Well, it all amounts to you successfully entering this information into your calculator in lists 1 and 2, more than likely, and then going ahead and finding the quadratic function on your stat calc button, and this is what you get if you round it off 2 places. And you have to be careful on your rounding. Make sure you pay attention. It says around to 2 places, and so this is what I ended up with: 1.31 x squared minus 29.67x plus 303.59. On D, it says use the equation, this equation, to, and you know, if it's wrong, everything else is going to be wrong. Use your equation to predict the average home value in 2018. So I figure, okay, I'm going to make a little notation over here that if I'm talking about 2018, then my x value is going to be 18 according to this table up on the top. So all I have to do is go ahead and take that equation that I found and take 18 and plug it in for x over here and x over here. And that's what I've done down here. And then you let your calculator do the work. I went ahead and rounded it off to 2 places because these were out 2 places, so that seemed to make sense to me. And I got a y value of 193.97. Now they're asking for the average home value. Keep in mind that the units up here, up in the y-axis area, the vertical axis, are thousands of dollars. So don't tell me that the answer is $193.97. It's $193,970. And then on item E, use your equation, again, that guy, to predict the year. I'm looking for the year this time that the average will reach $180,000 again. It was $180,000 at some point in time. It came down. Now it's going back up. We want to know when that's going to happen. So I went ahead and grabbed the equation that I had before, but this time I'm going to be putting a value in for y. And be careful here. It says that it's interested in when it's going to get to 180,000, but keep in mind that the numbers in my equation are thousands of dollars. So I'm not going to put 180,000 in here. I'm just going to put 180. And there's the rest of the equation. Now, we're going to be using the quadratic formula in order to solve this, but the very first thing I have to do is take that 180 and put it on the other side. So I'm essentially setting that entire equation equal to 0. So I end up with 0 is equal to 1.31 times x squared minus 29.67x plus 123.59. Now, here's where you're going to use the quadratic equation. And I'm going to rewrite it over here. X is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So in my equation right here, there's my a, there's my b, and there's my c. So it's a matter of putting things in the right place. So I have x is equal to 29.67 plus or minus the square root of 29.67 squared minus 4 times 1.31 times 123.59, all divided by 2 times 1.31. Now, how you execute this in your calculator, it can be done lots of different ways. The bottom line is you should get two answers. One that's generated when you add, one that's generated when you subtract. I ended up with two numbers that I rounded off to the nearest tenth. I got 17.1 and I got 5.5. Now, one of these is not going to make sense normally. Clearly, if it was year 5.5, well, that's already passed. That's already passed. I want to know when it's going to reach it again, meaning in the future. So it's going to be year 17, and we're going to assume that this 17 is the completion of that year. So that's the end of year 2017. And you can see it's a little bit more. So that's why I'm saying it's going to take place the start, the beginning, sometime the first tenth of the year of 2018. I know that might be confusing, and if you just said year 17.1, I think 2017.1, I think that would be fair. Okay, let's take a look at F. We're going to use the vertex formula, which is x is equal to negative b over 2a, to find the minimum home value and the year that occurred. So basically, I'm looking at this plot and I'm trying to find this point down here, that vertex. So if I use the formula, it's going to be negative b, so my negative 29.67 now becomes positive, divided by 2 times a, divided by 2 times 1.31. I end up with 11.32. I rounded that off a couple of places. You then have to take that value and plug it back into the equation for x. So I plugged it in there, I plugged it in there, ran it through my calculator, and I ended up with 135.592. Now that's the money. That's how much it's worth. I didn't bother rounding it off. I could have. Maybe I could have said 136,000, but this is good. And they wanted to know what year it occurred. Well, here's the year over here. Here's the year. So I just said it's the year 2011.32, or actually sometime during the first half of 2012.